If you only do what pays immediately, you'll eventually lose what you were actually called to do. Ballet forced me to learn how to balance survival and purpose. My name is Aaron. Welcome to Faith and Reverence. Ballet currently doesn't make me any money. I did make money from one performance, which was my first performance, and that was amazing. But I don't currently make money from ballet, and I don't dance professionally. My goal is to one day be able to dance professionally. I do believe that ballet is a calling that God put on my life, and I'm trying to steward that calling to the best of my ability while still juggling responsibility and trying to make money, pay my bills. When I added ballet to my life, I could have easily just viewed it as one more thing that I'm adding to my schedule. And a big thing at that. It is a huge commitment, especially to the level that I'm trying to pursue it. And granted, it was one more thing that I was adding to my schedule, but it didn't actually cause any instability. In fact, it revealed where the instability already was in my life and helped me to cure that. I realized I'm not actually scheduling anything. I'm just going day to day, just hoping that I'll get enough stuff done, but I didn't have any sort of organization. I didn't have lists. I didn't have a schedule in my calendar that laid out my entire day. I was talking to Ivan one day and he revealed to me how he schedules his day, that he lays out everything in a day that he's going to do. And he told me that what he does is he gets up early in the morning and he pursues his goals first, his dreams. And I asked him, I said, why do you do that first? Why do you pursue your dreams first thing in the morning? And he said, well, then it becomes a priority in my life. And by the time the workday rolls around, I'm ready to work. But, if I do my dream stuff later in the day, then I'm distracted. I have too much work stuff I need to do. I have other priorities during the day. So I prioritize my dreams first, and that ensures that I'm able to make them a priority and actually get them done. And I just thought that was great. And I started to emulate that and start to put ballet as the first part of my day. And so I would put together or put aside 2 to 3 hours every morning and do my 20-minute calisthenics and then do an hour of bar and then do an hour of stretching. And that really just opened it up for me to be able to make it a priority to train more consistently and to start making considerable progress. As I mentioned, there are a lot of things that I have to juggle in my life and balance. And, ballet is the primary thing underneath God. And I believe it's my calling and it's my long-term investment. It's what I need to do. But I do have other businesses that I run and I need to make money and I need to try to do the best I can to pay my bills and survive. I just started the business with Ivan and that takes a lot of work. It's a startup company. It's not easy, and then of course there's the Christian Rehabilitation and Life Coaching Center that I operate and run. And, I try to help people live their full potentials to the lives that God would have them live. And, just with family, friends, all of that stuff. Of course, the vlog. I'm filming this vlog, and that's a ton of content creation that I have to do. And I'm doing a lot of that myself. As I mentioned, that's basically a part-time job in and of itself. So, balance can get very complicated when you have to have kind of conflicting things, right? You have your purpose and your calling, which isn't necessarily making you money right away, but then you have to also make money and you have these other aspects to your life. So it can get very complicated and it's not an easy task. Balancing in and of itself is a sort of discipline. I used to get really overwhelmed and I used to think of myself as a failure because I wasn't able to effectively balance everything that I had going on in my life. And there was a big mindset shift that I had to make. I prayed to God and I asked him to reveal to me how I could handle all of this stuff. And I believe one of the biggest things that he showed me was that I had to have a different mindset about what success in a day actually looked like. Because I felt that if I didn't get all of this stuff done that I needed to get done in a day or a week or a month or even a year, that I was a failure somehow. But in reality, I realized that if I just get one or two things done in a day, then that's a win and that I'm making progress. And it's not about being perfect. It's not about upholding perfect schedules. Oftentimes we will make schedules and we will just totally get derailed because that's just the way life works. But if you just get one or two things done in a day, then you were productive and you did what needed to be done. And it's just about priorities. It's about scheduling, like I said, and it's about making lists. And those are a lot of things that we hear as practical solutions, but we don't oftentimes we ignore those types of things, and then we wonder why our lives are so disorganized and off the rails. As I talked about, I have to balance ballet, which I believe is my primary calling and passion in life, with paid work and with other opportunities. And part of that balancing means that sometimes you have to say yes to one thing and you have to say no to another. For me, when I did the Nutcracker, I had a lot of rehearsals that I had to go to, and that was a commitment that I made. Could I have missed a rehearsal once here and there? I guess I could have. Would it have been a good option? Probably not if I really wanted to have a good performance. It was my first performance, and I had a lot to learn about how to be on stage and learn choreography and all of that stuff. Um, but I did have at least one time that I can remember where I was offered paid work and I had to turn down that paid work. It wasn't just a small sum of money either. It was a decent amount of money. It would have helped me with my bills at the time, but I had to turn down that paid work because it was a day that I was supposed to have a rehearsal. And I wanted to honor that commitment. And I not only to the studio, but also to myself and to my overall ballet journey. I wanted to honor that commitment and really be able to prioritize my dream and my passion. And unfortunately, that meant that I had a decision that I had to make. I had to choose ballet over paid work. I'm not saying that that's always the solution. I'm not encouraging you to quit your day job necessarily to pursue your dream. I mean, maybe that's the solution, maybe it's not. God might reveal that to you if you ask him, right? Like I said before, if anyone lacks wisdom and asks God for it, he will willingly give it to them. I think everyone's situation is a little bit different, but what I knew is in that moment that I needed to choose ballet over paid work. And so sometimes you may have to make that decision. Sometimes you might have to make other decisions, and maybe you have to put the paid work over the ballet. I don't know, but my point is there are decisions that are going to have to be made, and that is a big part of the balancing act, is being able to make those decisions. And even if you make the wrong decision, own that decision. Stand behind it. I mean, even if you make the wrong decision, so be it. I mean, is the world going to come to an end? Probably not. I hope not, but I mean, you have decisions to make, and you have to be able to do what's right for you in your life according to what God's purpose is for you. One thing that I think is helpful is sometimes realizing that if you are overwhelmed and you can't figure out a way to obtain peace within your schedule, then the question may need to be asked, is there anything that I'm doing that I shouldn't be? And that comes back to talking to God and asking him to reveal anything in your life that may be superfluous, maybe you shouldn't be doing. And sometimes we take on a lot of commitments and we don't necessarily mean to, or maybe we do mean to, and we think that they're good commitments. And something can be a good thing, but it may not be good for you in your life in that particular season. So I just want to encourage you to really look at everything in your life and see what should be a priority. Is there anything that I can prune out of my life and maybe that I should? And ask God for that wisdom. Once again, he'll give it to you and he'll reveal to you what it is that you should and shouldn't be doing. I know I've had to ask that question many times, and sometimes he'll reveal to me things that I need to cut out. And sometimes he won't. Sometimes I feel like he's saying, no, you're doing everything that you need to be doing right now. But it's just all part of that process. One of the things that I know has been very important for me is to keep a Sabbath day. God commands that in the Bible, and whether you believe the Bible or not, I think that there's still a lot to be said about the value of taking a day off and putting some time aside to be able to rest and to get away from work, because we're limited as humans. We think that we're superhumans oftentimes. I know I still think that way. But I realize that I need to be able to sleep. I need to be able to rest. I need to be able to have a day where I just sit at home and watch TV or watch my friends on Twitch and, eat some food and maybe take a nap and just don't do any work that day. And if I don't take a Sabbath, I know that I'm actually less productive. I'm working more hours, but I'm less productive. When you put time in for that rest and that self care, you'll actually end up doing a lot more at the end of the day. So I think it's really important to honor that. I believe that God is the author of desire whenever those desires align with his will. And a lot of the desires that we have for careers or other things, a lot of those do come from God. Not all of them, but God, like I said, will give us the wisdom if we seek his guidance on that. And I think it's really important to honor those callings and those passions in our lives and to put priority on them. Balance is not about allocating equal time to different to various things. It's more about uh faithfully placing your time, right? It's about where is your time being allocated in relation to where it should be allocated, right? And that doesn't always mean equality across the board. For me, when I pursue ballet, maybe it means that I have to turn down some money opportunities, but money will always come. That's an external loss when I lose out on a paid job. It's something tangible, it's something material, and it's something external. But if I lose out on an opportunity to pursue my passion in ballet, let's say I had turned down the Nutcracker, let's say this or that, then that's something internal and it's something a little bit more considerable, even a lot more considerable. And it is something that's a lot more important at the end of the day, if that really is God's calling on my life. And I truly believe that it is. Balancing involves asking better questions. So, those questions for me are, what is God asking me to prioritize in this season? What am I doing that's urgent but not actually important? What is it that I can prune out of my life or maybe put on the back burner? And what would disappear from my life if I didn't intentionally make time for it? Well, for me, the answer to that question is ballet. So, once again, I encourage you to make a priority. Find the thing that you want to pursue. Find God's affirmation for that and make sure it's his will for your life, but pursue it fully and wholeheartedly. Put it as a priority in your life and make time for it, because you will never regret making time for that which you love and that which brings you true joy and peace, and making time for yourself and making time for God. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and keep moving forward in faith and with reverence.